Hey YouTubers, it's me, Lonnie Clark, Nuts for Art. Thank you for coming back to my channel and for following my channel. If you haven't subscribed, please do. I am consistent. I've taken a week off. My friend Lois Markham, that I think I mentioned to you before, died last week, and it kind of hit me pretty hard. It was all I could do to do work and the radio show, but I'm kind of back up to speed, so I'm going to be back here reading. And I'm reading the oral history of Dr. John Gofman. He was interviewed, let me remind you, by Loretta Hefner, an archivist for Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory, and Caroline Gorley, a researcher of the Office of Human Radiation Experiments for the U.S. Department of Energy. And this was in 1994. This oral history was conducted because they had discovered that the records were strewn everywhere, and there was no records on paper anywhere of many of the decisions to test on humans. So the Department of Energy in 1994 decided to go back and talk to the major parties. This is Dr. John Gofman's oral history. So I left off with the subtitle, Joe Hamilton's Cavalier Approach to Radiation. Hefner. Describe a little bit why you say that. What behaviors made you think that? Oh, let me go back to this. Joe Hamilton was, I'm going to read back who Joe Hamilton was. So this is a little bit of a repeat, but it's been a week, and so I kind of want you to remember who this is, okay? Joe Hamilton was working in Crocker Lab at that time. It was the building where the 60-inch cyclotron was, and Joe was working in collaboration with the people in the Department of Radiology. I think something happened very early that made Dr. Stone and the others in radiology very jealous of John Lawrence. To the extent that I understood it all, it just seemed as though they felt, since they were radiologists of the Bay Area University of California, it all should be in their department. Here was this guy, John Lawrence, off by himself and independent of them. And they didn't really like that, but Joe Hamilton and John Lawrence were never close to each other. I had known Joe Hamilton in the following way. When I was a student of Glenn Seaborg, I was a graduate student, and Joe Hamilton had scheduled bombardments of the 60-inch cyclotron. So you needed to get something done, like I needed a bombardment, like 20 pounds of thorium nitrate to do the 233 uranium work. You went to Joe Hamilton and got it scheduled. Now I did some other work on uranium-232, still another nucleoid, and Joe had to arrange those bombardments. So I got to know him only through his being the chief honcho at the Crocker cyclotron. Joe was a very, very reckless guy, and you figured if anybody was going to be hurt by radiation, it was going to be this guy, because he didn't seem to care. Joe Hamilton's cavalier approach to radiation. Hefner, describe a little bit why you say that. What behaviors made you think that? If you need a target made or a target handled, this is Gofman, I beg your pardon, Gofman retorted. If you need a target made or a target handled, he'd bring it back. He shouldn't have been carrying the thing. Just a general handling of things. This guy didn't seem to respect radiation. Do you know why? Do you have any sense why? Asked Hefner. Gofman, I have a letter from a lady. Did Greg Herkin ever show you that letter? Hefner, no. Gherkin is one of the people that was also interviewed. Gofman, do you see him much? Gorley, I see him now and then. Gofman, there's the Cal Monthly, you know the magazine. Well, Russell Scotch had called me up and said, I've done a question and answer interview with all the heretics of the Berkeley campus, but I've never done you. So he did, and this lady read the Cal Monthly interview and said, I was a classmate of Joe Hamilton. This guy was just wild. He would do the craziest things all the time, and we just wonder when he was going to blow the place up. I can locate that letter for you sometime if you'd like to have it. Hefner. Okay, thank you very much. Gofman. I've forgotten her name, but I have it in an envelope with all my papers concerning 60 Minutes Australia. She described Joe as an undergraduate who had crazy ideas. Who would do things like inhale some gases that would make his voice change? She thought he was strange. Hefner. What strikes me is how parallel your academic credentials are to Dr. Hamilton, an MD and a love of chemistry. Gofman. I always got along fine with Joe. I think he's gotten a very, very bad rap in this whole human experimentation uproar. All of my relations with Joe Hamilton were very cordial. I didn't know what he was doing with the radiology group. And even though he was in the Crocker lab and I'd come to the Donner lab at Berkeley, we'd see each other occasionally. I'd known him before in the war years. Always cordial. I think people made him out to be a monster ever since some of this recent public attention. Hefner. So he's not the mad scientist he's portrayed to be? Gofman. Oh, no. He's just a very simple person. He may have been isolated, but Dorothy Axelrod, who used to date Bob Duffield, who was one of my close friends in chemistry, worked with Joe, and she loved to work with him. She just didn't think he was a fun guy. Gorley. Is Joe Hamilton the one who you hear stories about taking the nuclear drink in front of a class? Gofman. Oh, yeah, I think he'd drink radioiodine. I heard those stories. He was teaching a course of applications of radioactivity in biology and medicine in our division. When Joe died of leukemia, I inherited that course and taught it after that. Gorley. Did you do the same thing? That's interesting. It ends. Here is a new title. Medical treatments with radioactive phosphorus. 232 phosphorus. Gofman. No, I didn't drink anything. I did work in John Lawrence's clinic, as I told you, and treated people with radioactive phosphorus. That was not human experimentation. John had tried this. Every person that came to John's clinic was referred by a doctor for radiation treatment, and patients knew what they were getting into. To clarify things for you, I had already known about these radiation treatments from having read all the stuff they'd done. The treatment of polycythemia versus Veras was very successful with radioactive phosphorus. The treatment of leukemia was successful only in one form of leukemia. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Called chronic myelogenous. Myelogenous. Leukemia. Chronic myelogenous leukemia. It was the other leukemias that did poorly with radiophosphorus. By the time I got there in 1947, they were no longer treating other leukemias, but the chronic myelogenous leukemia did quite well sometimes. Gorley, what type of radiation? Gofman. Radioactive phosphorus, 232 phosphorus. John had one lady, I remember, who was about 20 years of age. She was in here, I think, for her 10th or 11th year of treatment. Wow. There was a woman sent in by a doctor at Berkeley. She had a chronic myelogenous leukemia, and he told her, "You've got 3 to 6 months to live, but if you want to go over to John Lawrence's clinic in Berkeley, they might accept you as a patient to treat you with radioactive phosphorus. We don't know if he's any good or not, but at any rate, it can't hurt." John was too busy to see her, so I saw this lady. A lovely young lady who had 2 children about 5 and 6 years of age. She was depressed. She had just been told that she had 3 to 6 months to live. I told her that I'd look into the records and I'd help treat some of the people with her disease, and some of them had good health for 10 years with radiophosphorus. She'd listened to all of it. We treated her, and she responded quite well. We spent the first year convincing her that she wasn't dead because she'd been told she had 3 to 6 months to live. It was already a year. She did so well the second year that she took a trip to Europe with her children. The third year, we had to treat her again because she had a relapse, and she did well with that. But then, by the end of the 4th year, she went into what is called acute myelogenous leukemia, and there was nothing we could do about that. So this lady who had 3 months or 6 months to live, lived 4.5 years and watched her children get a little older. I think being able to give someone 4.5 years of life when they were pretty sick when they came was quite an accomplishment. I thought it was worthwhile working on that. I did leave that work when my own work in heart disease got very busy. I had 50 people working with me in Donner Lab, a lot of graduate students. Just couldn't keep up with the work on radiation. Hefner. Let me finish out some things and then hit the heart disease. Gofman, whatever you want. New subtitle. Conflict between University of California, San Francisco and Berkeley. Hefner. Do you know about the issue of treating patients over at UCB? UCSF really wanted all the patients treated at UCSF. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm going to stop here. Because it is after midnight. I'm going to get up. Please join us. I hope you see this before 8 o'clock in the morning. There was just not enough of me today. And today is the 11th. And look, I appreciate you guys joining me. Please share this channel. Tomorrow morning on the Age of Fission radio show, we're going to have John McKinnon, who goes by the name of Crow. He's a shaman. I think it's very important for us to develop our spiritual lives because we are inhabiting a physical body that is temporary, but I believe our spirits are eternal. And I also believe that this planet, this earth, the intrinsic part of us is part of us. We can't destroy it. And I do believe we are on the precipice of making massive changes emotionally so that we can save our species. I'll be back at this tomorrow, and I'll do it much earlier so I'm not so tired. Put your courage feet on, you guys. Really, go to ucy.tv/AOF, 8 a.m. in the morning, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 days a week. I make an effort to do a live interview every day. And if you want to support, if you're in the Northwest, please go to the new website that we developed. It's called nuclearnorthwest.org. Please be advised that there's a lady with a WordPress site with the same name. But our nonprofit is a formal 5013C. So if you Google it, you may have to scroll down, but it's www.nonukesNW.org. So that's NONUKESNW.org. And we hope to see you there because we need people to take action to close down the Columbia Generating Station. It's a dangerous, dangerous site. So put your courage feet on, you guys, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Good night.